Oh, and of course I say grab a strap before I hit record. So for those of you who are catching this afterwards, make sure you've got a strap or a scarf, a belt, etc. And so on Saturday, there was a local tragedy. Somebody got shot. It was not okay. Um, I feel like very little lately has been okay, and I hate to start off on that. So instead of just sticking with it's not okay, I thought it would be useful to dig into some readings to try to find some grounding um, in the midst of everything. And this is from The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. I just opened it up and realized this was the place to be. One of the elders in the city said, "Speak to us of good and evil." And he answered, "Of the good in you I can speak, but not of the evil. For what is evil but good tortured by its own hunger and thirst? Verily, when good is hungry, it seeks food even in dark caves. And when it thirsts, it drinks even of dead waters. You are good when you are one with yourself. Yet when you are not one with yourself, you are not evil. For a divided house is not a den of thieves, it is only a divided house. And a ship without rudder may wander aimlessly among perilous isles, yet not sink to the bottom. You are good when you strive to give of yourself, yet you are not evil when you seek to gain for yourself. For when you strive for gain, you are but a root that clings to the earth and sucks at her breast. And surely the fruit cannot say to the root, "Be like me and ever giving of your abundance." For to the fruit, giving is a need, as receiving is a need to the root. You are good when you are fully awake in your speech, yet you are not evil when you sleep while your tongue staggers without purpose. And even stumbling speech may strengthen a weak tongue. You are good when you walk to your family with bold steps, yet you are not evil when you go forth limping. But even those who limp do not go backwards. But you who are strong and swift, see that you do not limp before the lame, deeming it kindness. You are good in countless ways, and you are not evil when you are not good. You are only loitering and sluggard. And what this says from my perspective on it was just a good reminder that we have all things within us. We all have all things within us. Much like that reminder that when we see things that we don't like to see in others, it's often a reflection of something that we're dealing with inside of us. To continue to cultivate the division, to say like this group is bad and these things are evil and that's not okay and this is all wrong and it's not okay because it's not in line with what I believe in, that detracts from the humanity in which we see in others. And when we cast that darkness out, it's coming from the darkness inside of us. So we have darkness. We're all fallible. But to be able to humanize each of these things, to know that we are just as much as I am redeemable in my faults, others are redeemable as well. And if we can focus on the love in it and take out this idea of evil, there's the dark. Sometimes it's dark, but it can be light again. So we're going to start off with meditation with hands open on the heart. Go ahead and come there, and we're going to do a breath together. And our breath will be a focus in letting go. So our exhales are going to be a huge part of this breath practice. You're going to take a big inhale, and then you'll exhale in 8 parts. And at the 8th part, you want to try to be as completely empty as you can be, and then just take a nice leisurely inhale. So it would be something like this. You take just a big breath in, and breathing in again. You can keep going like that. I'm not sure if you can really hear me, but there's a sharp exhale to it. You put some energy into that breath out until you get to the bottom, and then take the air in again. Nourish yourself, and then let go of that which does not serve you. Take a few more rounds like that. We are taking in nourishment, we are taking in this full experience and letting go of that which does not serve us. And sometimes what we take in is justifiably anger. We take in pain, we take in a discernment of displeasure, and we let that be a catalyst for being aware, for being interested in making changes, and then we don't keep holding on to it because it only burns our own hands. It burns ourselves. Take one more round like this. Really try to get your lungs as empty as you can at the bottom of those exhales. And then take a big breath in through your nose. Big loud sigh through the mouth. Again, like that. For 3 ohms. Start to open your eyes. If your legs have been folded up, you're just going to take your feet out in front of you, mostly towards each other, knees bent. You can have legs just extended out, a little bit more relaxed as well. Find a place where it's easy to roll around on your pelvis. So you might want to try tilting forward and back a little bit. And then we're going to take some seated cat and cow. So as you inhale, let your heart lift up and look up. And as you exhale, drop your heart and your belly back, tucking your chin. And inhale, lifting up, roll those collarbones open. Exhale, rounding back. You want to try to tilt on your hips a little bit. So sometimes moving your feet will help you find a place where it's a little bit easier to roll around. Good. Take 2 more rounds of breath like this. And start to lift yourself up and start to stir yourself around on your hip. So rolling around, shifting from hip to hip. You can let your spine be fluid or let it be straight and have more like a spoon that you're stirring around. You get to decide what sounds best to you. See if you can still tap into a steady flow of your breath. And then start moving in the other direction. Really letting yourself rock around, maybe getting a little bit weird with this. And then when you feel like you've got about an even amount of turns and rolls around in each direction. Come back to the center. And then you're going to close your legs in. So you're going to draw your feet up a little bit so that you have the soles of the feet resting on the floor. And then take the fingertips back behind you. Have your elbows bent, leaning back a little bit. And try to draw the elbows back so you get a little stretch through the front of your chest, but not too much, because as you inhale, you want to get a little bit more as you lift the heart up, let the gaze go up. And then exhale, round through your spine. Really tuck the belly back. You're doing a little crunch. Inhale, let the heart lift up, look up. And then exhale, pull the belly back, a little strong in your core. Take a few more like this. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, pulling back. You can get the collarbones more stretched out the more that you move through this. Good. 2 more rounds. Relax this flow. If you've been seated on anything, go ahead and bring it out from underneath you. You're going to come down onto your back, grab your strap, and bring that with you. And you're going to take the strap around the bottom of one of your feet, it doesn't matter which one. And then wrap the strap around your knuckles and try to find a really, really straight leg, even if that means you have to loosen up the strap so you can move the leg further away from you. Feel your foot pressing out into the strap. You do want to have it a little bit more by the heel so you can really get that full extension of your legs. And think of relaxing the thigh bone on this leg you have lifted up. You want to relax that thigh bone or that hip down towards the other foot. One more breath in. One more breath out. And then you're going to take this strap and you're going to put both ends of the strap in the same hand. So same hand, same leg. Roll over to your side and bend that leg. So you can prop yourself up on your hand, give yourself some space. And then what often happens is the leg starts to lift up towards your armpit. You want to send that hip down towards the bottom foot. Make the bottom leg straight. If you want to challenge your balance, you can leave it bent. Keep resting that hip down. If you'd like to try to make the leg straight, you can play with that. You want to try to focus on resting that hip down though. Big breath in. Big breath out. And then bend the leg. Go ahead and take the strap off. I'm going to roll that thigh across so you have a large stretch on the outside of your thigh. And then open that arm back so you have this open twist. Let your belly relax with every exhale. Let your collarbones relax and open. Take another breath in and another breath out. And start to roll over onto your back. You're going to grab your strap, find the other side. I'm just going to shift because it's weird to have my bum to you. You'll take the strap around the heel. Wrap your hands around the strap and then start making that leg really straight. So it's less of you trying to bring the leg into you and more of you trying to open up the back side of the leg and the back of your hip. Steady, easy breath here. One more breath in. One more breath out. Bend the leg a little bit. Take both ends of the strap into the same hand. So same hand, same leg. Roll over to your side. You can prop yourself up in your hand. And then as you draw the leg in, you're going to drop that hip down. It's a little hard to do. A little bit of strengthening going on around that hip. So if you get a cramp or it starts to feel like too much, you can back off for a bit and then go back into dropping that hip down. You keep your breath steady. Big breath in. Big breath out. And then release your strap off of that foot. You can set it off to your side. You're going to take that leg and drop it over. So now you've got a big stretch on the outside of your thigh. And then open your arms out in a way that's comfortable to you. Sometimes putting your hand on your shoulder or on your belly is a little bit better if having the arm extended is a little too intense on your shoulder. Soften your belly, your jaw, your eyebrows. One more breath in. One more breath out. Unwinding your twist, coming back to the center. When you get to the center, take your right leg up in the air and make some circles with your toes, spreading your toes around, working around the ankle, and then going in the other direction. And then flex your foot and bend your knee. You don't have to move the leg very much. Sometimes moving it just about 6 inches forward and back is going to be enough. Have a little bit more strength and function around this leg and the low abs. Or you can drop your heel down to or towards the floor and then draw your belly and lift that leg back up. We'll do that a few more times. You can even just hold your leg in place and try to breathe there. One more time. And then you're going to take your right ankle and put it on your left knee. And you can stay there, sometimes just crossing the legs over and letting the outer hip stretch will feel good. Sometimes you take the thigh and push it forward. Or you can take your right arm between your legs and hold on to that bottom thigh. And then rest both hips down and forward. Doesn't have to change the way that it looks. If that idea changes the way that it feels in such a way that is not painful, but it's interesting, it's maybe a little bit more opening into the hips, that's what we're going for. One more exhale. Releasing your hands and setting the soles of both feet down. And then just take a little gentle rolling of the knees side to side. Noticing if you've got a lot of space or maybe there's some heat and some sensation going on around the hips, especially that right one. And then come back to the center. You're going to take your left leg up in the air and start to make some circles around with your toes, trying to spread them out and make funny shapes with your feet, and then moving in the other direction. And then flex your foot, drawing your toes towards you. Keep the foot flexed, bend your knee, and you can make small movements and slightly smaller range of motion. Can be just very intuitive. You're feeling into exactly how that function is moving, small range of motion, low intensity. Or if you're feeling interested in making the full range, you'll drop the heel down and then lift it back up. Feeling your belly gently drawn down towards the floor. If your breath starts to pick up its pace, or your eyebrows start to furl, you're not a bad yogi, you're just a person who's experiencing some tension. That's a normal response. We let it go. Last time you bring your leg back up and go ahead and bring the knee onto the ankle. You can open that thigh, cross the thigh over if that feels a little bit more soft. And then, or the other option is to grab onto the right leg, resting the hips down. It's even to say, even any one of these variations that seems better to you, you're not a bad yogi for modifying or choosing something different. We know this. We go over this all of the time. I think for most of us, it's just sometimes the ego gets in and says that we're like, no. Being a good yogi is about practicing. It's about seeing how we're feeling each day. Just as we are not bad yogis for not executing each pose in the textbook perfect way, we're not bad people when we don't do everything in the textbook perfect way. We are still love and goodness at our core. Deep breath in. Soften something as you breathe out. One more time, deep breath in. Deep breath out. And then release the cross of your legs. Set the soles of both feet down. Go ahead and let the knees roll side to side again. And then go ahead and roll all the way over to one side so that you can roll over onto your belly. And when you get there, make a pillow for your head with your hands. Rest your forehead or a cheek. Take a few breaths here. Let your belly and the fronts of your thighs rest down towards the floor. Start to pick your head up so you can bring your hands out from underneath you. We'll take the hands behind the back. You can hold your hands at your hips if that's more comfortable than holding hands together behind your back. You're able to choose something that works a little better for you if you need some adjustment. And then we'll take the elbows and roll them back so the chest is opening. Reach the toes back, whether or not they come up off of the ground. Keep the breath moving as much as you can. Peel the heart up and forward. Feel the front of your shoulders, your collarbones, your chest stretching open. One more breath in. Exhale, lower down, drop your hands, rest a cheek or a chin. And then start to bring your hands in by your low ribs. Drawing the elbows back, looking forward, and then feel your collarbones stretching open, just like when you were doing that last shape, that Shalabhasana, big chest stretch. It's a little bit stronger of a chest stretch in Cobra. So see if you can soften your throat in Cobra to let your heart open up a little bit more. Just notice where the places we often hold tension may not always be serving us. One more breath in. Exhale, soften down. Press yourself up towards your hands and knees. Leaving your hips above your knees, reach your hands forward into puppy dog. You can make very wide arms, maybe even just resting on your elbows instead of on your hands. Do try to rest your forehead down if it reaches. Feel it reaching up through all of your fingertips, especially your index fingers. Maybe even your middle finger too. Big breath in. Big breath out. Lock those hands back in a little bit. I'm going to take your hand and circle it around. Shake water off with your fingers. And set that hand down strong. Take the other hand, circle the fingers around. Shake water off of your fingers. And set that hand down. Feel all of the fingers reaching out, especially that first finger, maybe the middle finger too. We'll curl the toes under and come into downward facing dog. We've done a lot of hip work to start off our practice, really opening up that foundation space. See how maybe this down dog feels a little bit more open in the hips. Maybe you're not sure. Maybe you're just like, sure, why not? Notice how it feels. See if you can relax your heels. Notice if you're breathing. Give yourself one more exhale to let this dog go. It's time to move on, bringing feet towards hands and hands towards feet. And then continuing on up to standing. We're going to take 2 balance poses today. Our first one's going to be eagle pose. So you're going to take your right leg and cross it over your left leg and bend into your left leg so that you can sit the hips back. You can rest the toes or lift the toes, but make sure your left foot is strong on the floor. You can take one hand to your heart and hold on to something. You could take both hands to your heart. Maybe you start to take the elbows towards each other. If you've got a lot of room around your shoulders, you might take the left elbow on top of the right elbow and wrap up for eagle arms. Make sure that your hips are sitting back. Resting those hips down and back, just like we were resting our hips down and forward when we ran that reclined pigeon earlier. Take a breath in and a breath out. Unwind your arms, unwind your legs, stand up. Shift the hip side to side a little bit. And then find the same shape on the other side. So if you were holding on with one hand, you might turn around just so that you can bring the other hand to your heart. We'll take the left leg and cross it over, bend back in that right leg. So your hips are really going back, and try not to curl inwards. I'm going to try to leave the spine as long as we can. You might take both hands to your heart. You might have that one hand holding something. You might start to bring your elbows towards each other. And if you press the elbows towards each other, there's a lot of opening in the back of the heart that occurs. You can make even more happen by wrapping the right hand on top. And then reach your tailbone away from your elbows and your elbows away from your tailbone. Can you rest both hips down and back? Are you still breathing, especially the exhale? Sometimes we just hold the inhale and never let it go. So let that exhale go. Unwind your arms, hands to your hips, both legs straight. Wiggle things out. So we're going to take Ida Pingala, which is a fairly intense hip opener. It's a really difficult balance. So if it starts to seem like that's not really working out in your body right now, go ahead and go back to that eagle pose and practice the opening of your hips back towards the space behind you. It'll be a very similar function. Maybe that's what your body needs a little bit more than anything else today. You could also sit down and put your ankle on your knee and just get that stretch. But for those of us who feel inclined to work on that figure 4 balance, you might have something nearby that you could balance on. You're going to bend into your legs, take that left leg, put the ankle up on your knee, and sit both of those hips down and back. Maybe one hand comes to your heart, maybe both hands come to your heart. Notice if your collarbones are hiding your heart, can your heart be more open in this shape? Big exhale. Go ahead and stand yourself up. Move things around. And find the other side. So you have to start with bent legs. You see, it's not just like standing in tree pose with the ankle crossed over. It's really bent back in the legs. So this is a shelf that you're putting your ankle on. You might take a hand to your heart. Maybe you play around with both hands, sit the hips back. Collarbones are open. Eyebrows are soft. Last exhale. And then standing, setting your foot down, wiggling things out a little bit. I'm going to take a little bit of extra footwork before we go to some more standing poses. So if you need to maybe fold your mat over behind you so you have a little extra squishiness to be on, you can do that. And then take one of your feet behind you and try to come onto the tops of your feet. And this is also some balance work. Maybe you have a pillow that you would put your foot on if that feels a little bit better. And just try to turn both hips forward. You don't even have to straighten that back leg. But see if you can lift the front of your hips up. You could straighten the back leg. It's going to make this a lot more intense. I would recommend just leaving it as it is. We haven't done this in a while. Just kind of lifting up these front hip points. Big exhale. Set the foot down, shift to the other side. I'm just on the toenail side of the foot. I want to keep my weight, of course, on the foot that's the way that the foot is designed to be supporting us. And then what often happens is you kind of have this dumping forward of the front of the pelvis. We want to instead try to lengthen the front side of the body by lifting up the front of the pelvis. Breath in, big breath out. Take that foot up and set it down, wiggle things out a little bit. If you folded your mat over, be a good time to unfold it. And we'll come into warrior one, taking your right foot forward and your left foot back. So the back toes up, front knee in the same direction as your front toes. Kind of lean forward slightly, just like a hair. So it's just like an imperceptible forward. And then try to settle the hips a little bit more centered and aligned towards that short edge of your mat. And you can leave your hands at your hips. If it's uncomfortable to hold hands behind your back, you could grab the strap and hold onto the strap behind your back. See if you can give a big stretch open to the chest, no matter where you've put your hands. And then lean forward over the front thigh. You want to try to bring your right ribs pretty close to your right thigh. Even if they don't get that close to it, it's just not going in towards the left. You're bringing your ribs over towards your thigh. And then see about settling your right hip back towards your left foot. Woo. One more exhale. And then lift yourself up, straighten the front leg, bring your hands to your hips, and then keep the chest just as open as when you had your hands bound, and start to lean forward over a straight leg this time. Thinking of heart going out to your toenails, and also your right hip rolling back towards your back foot. Still breathing. Using the foundations of your feet, exhaling here, and lifting yourself up. Bend into the front knee, bring your hands to your heart, come up onto the back toes. You can scooch those toes in closer if you like. We're just going to take 2 steps up. So see if you can step up into a very shallow chair. And then step the foot back. And then see if you can get back to that shallow chair. And then straighten the legs. And then take your right foot back and your left foot forward. And if you're lifted up right here, it kind of creates some tension in the low back. And then to try to turn that often creates a little bit more tension. So that's why I often suggest in Warrior One, just like breathe out forward. So it's not hunching, it's not leaning forward, it's just going from this very lifted place to just exhale it forward a little bit. And then maybe you can really turn that right hip a little bit more forward. And then take your hands back behind you. Front knee and toes stay in line. Keep dropping that left hip back. And then lean the heart forward. Right over or right towards that left thigh bone. Big exhale, just let it go. And standing up. Hands to your hips instead. Straighten the front leg. Hands at hips can help us to see that the hips are both facing forward as much as possible as your heart goes forward over your toes. One more exhale. Lifting yourself up. Bend into your front knee. I think hands at the heart is generally more centering. If you feel like hands at hips is better, you're welcome to do that as well. You're going to come up onto the back toes. You can hop them a little bit closer. Try to keep the bend in your front leg and just bring your back leg up to meet it, a shallow chair pose. And then just one more try, step it back. And see if you can stay steady, step it forward, and then stand on up. Reach your hands up. Palms together or palms open, depending on what your shoulders are okay with. If you can bring your palms together, it's also totally fine if your hands are out in front of you. See if you can reach the front of your hips forward, lift the front of your ribs up, lift up your gaze, and soften your collarbones just a little bit. Can you relax your jaw to let the heart open upwards a little bit more? Big breath in. Exhale, fold it on down. Bend into your knees. Bring your feet a little bit wider. Bend into your left leg more than your right leg. You can even put your left hand at your right shin and your right hand at your right hip. Or your right arm goes open, your left fingertips could be on the ground. Lots of options here. Let the outside of this thigh open up and the collarbone open up. Stay through the exhale. And then switch sides. So you might bring right hand to left shin, left hand to left hip as the right leg is more bent. So the left leg can be bent too, but you just bend the right leg more. Open the collarbone. Maybe the hand is open. Maybe the hand is at the floor. Make sure if your hand is on your shin that it's not causing tension in your knee. That hand is just there as a guide, not to apply pressure. Stay there as you breathe in. Stay there as you breathe out. And then both hands down, soften your knees, relax the back of your neck. Halfway up as you breathe in, roll the shoulders back, lift your heart forward. And then bring the hands down, step your feet back, find child's pose or lying flat on your belly. Either is totally fine. Decide what would be better for your hips and your knees and what your body might be asking for at this point in practice. Just feel the breath moving in the backs of your ribs. I often notice that in places where I need to seek more love and openness, of course, these chest opening practices, the front of the heart opening practices are very useful. We've done a lot of that today, but also being able to have the back of the heart open is an important part in finding balance, and I find it kind of nourishing, and it's a good reminder of That which my teacher says, the heart is stretchy enough for all things, even this. So we want the heart to be stretchy on all sides. Settle into your exhale. And then start to walk your hands back. We're all going to come up to seated, grabbing your strap. Send one leg out in front of you, bending the other leg. And like in tree pose, when we lengthen the knee away, it'll drop the hips back. So instead here, we want to pull the thigh into the hip socket and be able to kind of roll the hips forward a little bit. You're going to take your strap and loop it around the bottom of your foot. Wrap the hands around. You want to be able to bend your elbows. Get a little bit of, maybe a little bicep in the front of the arms, but just enough that you can use that to open your chest up towards your toes. And I am resting the thigh bone back to hopefully be able to hinge my hips a little bit further forward. The front of the heart opening up and forward here. Big breath in. Big breath out. Releasing that grip on your strap. Go ahead and set the strap down. I'm going to take this bent knee and lift it up. You can leave it there or cross it over your leg. And then you're going to hug onto that thigh with the opposite arm. The other hand goes back behind you. Lift up through those open collarbones. And then soften the belly in. Allowing you to rotate maybe a little bit more. Really let that belly fall back and roll your ribs to the opposite thigh. Last exhale. And release your twist. If you had the leg crossed over, you're going to bring it back behind you. Bring your hands back behind you, elbows back, heart forward. You might plant your palms down. It's fine if your hips don't lift up, but can you push strong into both hands? Maybe you push into that bent leg and lift the hips up a little bit. It might only go about here. See if you can inhale. And then exhale, the hips are down. Take your legs out. Shake your hands out. Flop around and then take your strap around the other foot. So bend the other leg in and adjust around the flesh a bit. And taking it down, wrapping the hands around. And even though I can get much closer to my foot, I want to kind of let that idea go that I have to be close to my foot. Because if I bend into my elbows and lift and expand my chest, then I have a much more open, strong heart shape coming towards my toes. And it's not so much like trying to dig in here. It's saying, I'm coming for you, feet. One day, or tomorrow, or later. Collarbones are open. Breath is steady. One more breath in. Deep breath out. And then lifting up. Go ahead and take that strap off to your side. I'm going to bend the leg and lift it up. You can hold on to it. You can cross it aside. Maybe you wrap the opposite arm around. Same hand goes back behind your back. Lift as you breathe in and soften the insides as you breathe out and twist. Relaxing your collarbones, relaxing your jaw to perhaps open the collarbones more. One more round of breath. And then releasing your twist. You're going to uncross the leg if you had it crossed. Hands go back on fingertips or palms. Of course, if you're on fingertips, probably not lifting the hips up. Let this be a chest opening. Maybe you push down into the other foot and you just feel the strength behind your leg. Maybe you use that to lift up your hips a little or a lot. See if you can inhale. And then let it all go as you exhale. Take your hands, wiggle your fingertips around. And then start to bring yourself down onto your back. When you get there, bringing your knees in and taking happy baby. Knees up towards your armpits. Feet up towards the sky. You could be, of course, holding onto your shins or the backs of your knees if that seems like a better place to hold on to your body. Let yourself settle in and be held by the floor, the ground. Big breath in. Big breath out. And then start to release your feet. Bring your knees in. Actually, let's do this. Set your feet down. You're going to take your left thigh over your right thigh. Use your right foot to push your hips over towards the left, and then open your arms in a way that's comfortable to you and twist both knees over towards the right side. You might catch yourself on that foot instead of going into a really deep twist. You might twist it all the way over. And give a little adjustment to your shoulders to help the chest be more open. If this is too much twist, you're on the foot or you uncross the legs. Making those adjustments to be sure that the body is being met where it is at today. That the awareness and the grace that we offer ourselves, the adaptability, the focus on the truth and care to ourselves, that's our best practice. One more round of breath. And releasing a leg if it was wound up. Coming back to the center. Bring your hips back into the center. And then take your right thigh and cross it over your left thigh. Using the left foot to hop your hips over towards the right and then coming into as much of a twist as is good for you right now. Not as much of a twist as might have been good for you yesterday or next week, but where are you at right now? If you feel like something's not right, you're correct. Let's make an adjustment. Find a place you can still breathe. Especially in a twist, our breath is generally a little bit softer at this point. But are you still there in that breath? One more round of breath. And start to unwind the legs. Coming back to the center, settling your hips in the center. Bring your feet a little bit wider than your hips. Take your arms up behind you and hold on to your elbows or hands folded back behind your head. And of course, you can modify that, bringing the arms down more if that suits you. With your arms up above your heads, if you're holding your elbows, can you relax your armpits out? So I would like armpits out instead of up by your ears, feel like. And then lift and spread your toes so the feet are flexed. Keep the feet flexed. Roll the knees over towards the right side so you have a big stretch to the front of your left hip. Before we were stretching the outside of the hip. Reaching the left knee away from you, rolling those armpits up so maybe the elbows can reach out a little bit more. Big inhale, big exhale. And then taking your knees up and moving them over towards the other side, keeping those feet flexed, toes drawn up towards the shins, armpits release, elbows release, right knee reaches away, gently just creating more space on the front of the right thigh and hip and belly. Big inhale, big exhale, and bringing the knees up, letting the knees knock against each other. Bringing your hands down onto your belly and your heart and just listening to the movement of your breath and your heartbeat for a moment. If there's anything you need at the end of your practice, feeling free to take a few moments and find those shapes or movements. If you would prefer to take a seated meditation or place your legs up against the wall for Shavasana or up on a chair, start making that shift. You can stay here with knees bent, or begin to extend the legs out, letting the feet and the palms flop open in this gesture of being ready to receive, being surrendered and open to that which is about to come at us, because all things do. Settling in, held by the earth, steadied by your breath, rest very well. Then Almitra said, "Speak to us of love." And he raised his head and looked upon the people, and there fell a stillness upon them. With a great voice he said, "When love beckons to you, follow him. Though his ways are hard and steep, and when his wings enfold you, yield to him. Though the sword hidden among his pinions may wound you, and when he speaks to you, believe in him. Though his voice may shatter your dreams as the north wind lays waste the garden. For even as love crowns you, so shall she crucify you. Even as she is for your growth, so is she for your pruning. Even as she ascends to your height and caresses your tenderest branches that quiver in the sun, so shall she descend to your roots and shake them in their clinging to the earth. Like sheaves of corn, she gathers you unto herself. She threshes you to make you naked. She sifts you free from your husks. She grinds you to whiteness. She kneads you until you are pliant. And then she assigns you to her sacred fire, that you may become sacred bread for the sacred feast. When love beckons to you, follow her. Start to bring yourself back into your body, feeling your breath. As you start to wake yourself up and make small movements, just do what comes natural to you, remaining as soft as you can. And then when you feel ready, bend into your knees and roll yourself over to one side, pausing as you turn inwards in gratitude for coming to your mat today and for having this community to practice together in. When you're ready, find your own version of a comfortable shape, bringing the hands up, closing them at your heart. We seal our breath, our practice, releasing one Om together. Big inhale. Bowing down to the love and light that resides within all hearts. Namaste. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, April. It was fabulous.
Yes, thank you so
As
much.
usual.
That was what I needed. So
Yeah.
The readings were really good, as well as all of the exercises. Thank you.
Yeah, The Prophet, if you haven't read it, highly, it's like itty bitty.
Yeah,
It's all good.
great.
read that years and years and years ago. So,
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
It was popular in the late 60s.
yes,
Yeah.
it was. It was a thing when we
Yeah.
were young. When we were your age, maybe. So,
It was one of the first spiritual books I bought.
Yeah. Well, certainly the first book I bought with the word prophet in it.
Yeah.
Its title.
I was trying to remember if it's still on my shelf. I don't
I
think
was
so.
thinking that too. I was
Yeah.
thinking that too.
Oh, I know nothing lasts that long with me.
Thank you very much, April.
Thank
Thank
you.
It was great, April.
Please, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.